So we've been talking about the different transformations. We've been reading the equations and identifying the transformations. Now we're going to apply these transformations to graphing. And again, the goal was still to not use a calculator, and you may choose to graph in this order: stretching and compressing first, reflection second, and shifts last. I tend to go from left to right in terms of graphing. But if we look at this first function here, what we see is that it's the cubed root of x, and that happens to be our parent function. Y equals the cubed root of x. And hopefully, you can at least come up with 3 key points on this graph. 0, 0, 1, 1, 8, 2, negative 1, negative 1, and negative 8, negative 2. There's our parent function. And once we get the parent function drawn, then we want to come up with the different transformations. And the first transformation that I see is that negative outside of the function. And negative means that we're going to reflect the graph over the x-axis. So it's hard to show on a video, but the 0, 0, that point's not going to move. It's already on the x-axis. But the point 1, 1, what's going to happen is it's going to flip over the x-axis. And still, instead of being at 1, 1, it's now going to flip, and it's going to be at 1, negative 1. And sometimes I make a hand gesture just to remind myself. I'm flipping over the x-axis, and I know you can't see that on the video. The 8, 2 is going to flip over the x-axis, so it's going to stay at 8, but now it's going to be at negative 2. And the same thing's going to happen with the other points. Negative 1 is going to reflect over the x-axis, and now it's going to be at negative 1, positive 1. And negative 8, negative 2 is now going to be at negative 8, positive 2, because it reflected over the x-axis. So there's our first transformation. Well, the next transformation that we see, I hope, is that there's a 4 in front of the function. And the 4 in front of the function is going to vertically stretch the graph by a factor of 4. And if it's vertically stretching, the value that's changing is going to be the y value, because y goes up and down on the axis. So once again, 0, 0 isn't going to change, but what we do need to change here are going to be the y values. In fact, the 0, 0, I know that it's not moving, but what I'm doing is I'm taking the y value of 0 and I'm multiplying it by 4. But 0 times 4 is still 0. And if I go to the next point, which is 1, negative 1, well, the y value of negative 1 is getting multiplied by 4. So negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. So this next point that I graphed is 1, negative 4. Our next point was 8, negative 2. And 8, negative 2, now negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The x value is not changing. It's still 8. But the negative 2 times 4 is where that negative 8 came from. When I go to the left, negative 1, 1, 1 times 4. So we're still going to go negative 1, but 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4, negative 1, 4. And then we had negative 8, 2. 2 times 4 is 8, so it's going to be negative 8, 8. And here you can see a pretty good illustration of the vertical stretch. Well, finally, what we need is we need to deal with that plus 2. Well, that's going to be a shift, and in this case it's going to be up 2. And we're going to take all of these values and we're going to move them up 2. And I'll just start at the far left. We had negative 8, 8. And now I'm going to make it negative 8, 10. Because we moved that point up 2. And negative 1, 4 is going to move up 2. So it's going to be negative 1, 6. And 0, 0, we're going to move it up 2. So now it's going to be 0, 2. And 1, negative 4 is going to move up 2. And 8, negative 8 is going to move up 2. And there's our transformed graph. The key is, can we identify the transformations so that we can actually draw the graph? When we look at number 2, g of x equals negative 1/3 x, negative 1/3 x cubed minus 4. Our parent function here is y equals x cubed. I had to pause the video, so I think I might be repeating something, but our parent function in this graph is y equals x cubed. And when we graph that, our points on y equals x cubed are 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 8, negative 1, negative 1, and negative 2, negative 8. And then as we look at the reflections, the transformation I see is a reflection, and it is the reflect over the y-axis. Well, when we do that, it's hard to see because on the video, because I usually make a hand gesture of flipping my hand vertically so it goes across the y-axis. Ultimately, what happens is that 0, 0 doesn't change. But 1, 1 goes across the y-axis and becomes 1, negative 1. And 2, 8 flips across the y-axis to negative 2, 8. So again, 1, 1 flips over the y-axis and becomes negative 1, 1. 2, 8 goes across the y-axis and becomes negative 2, 8. And our 1, negative 1 goes across the y-axis and becomes positive 1, negative 1. And our negative 2, negative 8 goes across the y-axis and becomes positive 2, negative 8. So we still have the same general shape, but we've reflected. The next transformation that I see here is the 1/3. And the 1/3 is going to be a horizontal stretch by the reciprocal of 1/3, which is by 3. What's going to happen here is that we're going to have to multiply our x values in our ordered pairs by 3. So the x value in 0, 0, 0, and 0 times 3 is 0. So 0, 0 is going to stay the same. But our next x value, or our next point on the graph, is 1, negative 1. The positive 1 gets multiplied by 3. So it becomes 3. The negative 1 value doesn't change. Our next value in the graph here is a point 2, 2, negative 8. The 2 gets multiplied by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. And the value of negative 8 doesn't change. So that 2 became 6. It also works on the other side. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. So we're going to go negative 3, but we're still going to go up 1. And then we have negative 2, 8. Well, negative 2 times 3, the x value gets multiplied by 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 8. And there's our horizontal stretch. And then lastly, outside of the function, we have minus 4, so we're going to go down 4. That means that we're going to have a point that's going to go off the graph, but we're just moving these points down. So negative 6, 8 becomes negative 6, 4. And negative 3, 1 becomes negative 3, negative 3. And 0, 0 becomes 0, negative 4. And 3, negative 1 becomes 3, negative 5. And 6, negative 8 becomes 6, negative 12. And I'll continue this in our next recording session.